Oh, so you both didn't do any technical.
That's me just doing a call out to the guys on YouTube. You know how to fix the
Hello, hello, hello. Do you need headphones to judge it? Would you like headphones? I've got some in my room to judge the sound quality going through. Oh, okay. Okay. I'm not sure where you're mixing it to.
How are you going? Oh, thank you.
Very well.
Very well. Yeah, very well. Busy.
Yeah. With you guys, it's exam time.
Yeah. My last exam this afternoon, 400 students.
Oh,
Wow.
I had 800 in Singapore. Yeah. We're supposed to be, we're online. Grab a chair.
We're online, we're broadcasting. So I want to get on so that you see it.
So have you guys put your PowerPoint in?
I shared the bills in his email.
Oh, my email. Okay. Very good way of doing it.
We shared it with you on the drive.
I not emailed it to you? Oh, on the Google Drive?
Yeah, but you received an email, shouldn't you?
You just did the outcome exam.
Yeah, you have to send it again. Yeah, all the questions from assignments. But that's easier.
There's a lot less questions in the sample exam.
Oh, it's okay.
Well, it's more straightforward, you know. Yeah. Because the sample exam is like too broad. I like this one.
Is it, it's a PowerPoint? Yeah. So let's.
The formatting might go crazy if we open it in PowerPoint now.
You reckon?
Try it. Oh, is it what? Second one?
Okay.
Yeah, but you can tell me.
So, hi, can you hear us?
Yes, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, excellent.
It's kind of working now. Okay. So,
Okay, don't touch anything.
Let's see if there's any feedback. Guys, can you talk?
Yes, we've got our people there ready. Have you got the students? We've got a few students here. I don't know where the others are.
I don't know.
They can come in and
Yeah,
watch.
ask the other students to come in and have.
And there's no feedback, right?
I was going to say they're probably all prepared.
Your side's really good. And we've got
Excellent. Yours is too. Yours is too.
Yeah.
Emmanuel maintenant. Okay. Sorry?
we're currently streaming live now on YouTube. And showing my welcome screen. Now, just to put it on YouTube, for today.
Just a plug-in.
Have a look if I see anyone in Israel. Okay, let's flick to Israel. Are you in this group A? I can't hear them.
Sorry, were you talking to me? What was it? Well, it's a bit laggy here. We can hear you a bit laggy. I'm trying to. יש תקשורת. יש לאגים. Let's see, can you speak now? Let's see if there's any lag.
Hello, it's Vince here in Melbourne. Are we nearly ready to start our group?
It's still a bit laggy. It's we'll try and see what we can do about it.
Okay.
Why is that? Shouldn't be. It's just a mic. Now that I'm using mine as the microphone, it's a bit annoying.
Hear me? Can you hear me? Okay, that's coming up. That's coming up nicely. Okay, there's no reverb. It's like the, well, there's reverb. It's like the end of a letterbox. Okay.
So that's Tel Aviv. All right. Hello, Tel Aviv. Can you hear me?
Hi, can you hear us?
I can hear you, yes.
Okay, group A, would you come up to the front, please?
Sounds like it's
Is, if I speak directly into it, is it better?
I can adjust it.
Okay. Feedback. Do you want me to, hello? If they just stand here and speak, can you get rid of the echo so that we can hear and hello, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's still echoing. There's still a bit of echo. Are we okay? There's a delay. Well, the students got to be standing here. Skype. Yeah. Okay, so
Okay, I think I know what I'll do. I mute them. Hello, testing. Hello, testing. Can you hear me? Oh, that's bad. It worked for a few minutes and then stopped. Hello, can you hear me?
and how close you are.
I mean,
That would do it. We turn off one of.
I'll turn off this ad.
Hello? Hello, hello?
Hello. Louder. Hello, testing.
Hello? Hello, hello? Okay.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
Can you guys
We can
hear
hear
us?
you, but we're hearing a terrible echo here.
Oh, you got an echo there?
Yeah. You need to disable one of the mics.
We've only got one mic now.
Hello? Hello, hello? Hello, hello? Is that better? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3.
We don't have an echo, but we have a noise, a background noise.
You've got background noise. Oh no.
I think that'll disappear when they get in front of us. I think these are adjusted. Is half the problem.
So when
Now
you've
we
got
have
one person speaking, it should be okay.
I think so.
Sounds like an airflow noise.
We didn't hear any then. Can you hear any now when you're not talking?
Yeah, we can hear it. Can you disable my mic or your mic, and I'll tell you if the sound stops?
Okay, I'll turn yours off. How's it going now? Can you hear me well? I'll turn you back on now.
I can hear you well, but there is still a noise, like an airflow noise.
Okay, what about, I'll turn mine off and you talk.
Still, we have the noise.
Are you looking at the live feed now?
Yeah.
So I'll change the screen, 10 seconds. I think it's some.
Che ci sanno le cose? Hebben we een implant?
Try now.
Hello? 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 1, 2, 3. Can you hear the hello, hello, hello?
Hello, can you hear us?
1, 2, 3.
Vince, can you hear us?
Hello? Can you hear me through your laptop?
Yes.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Is there any echo now?
Can you hear us now? I can't hear them. That's the problem. Can you wave if you can hear us?
Vince?
Yes, I can hear you.
Ah, great. Are we ready?
Yes, are you ready? We can go?
Last side, yes.
Okay, let's go. All right. I think it's working
But
well.
there is a lot of echo or white sound.
I can hear a little bit of sound here as well. I just hear a bit of a shh.
Horrible. That's the sound we're hearing.
Yes, we're hearing the same sound. Is Ben and Niv there?
I can put my mic on mute.
Is Ben and Niv there? Is Ben and Niv there?
There isn't any feedback. Do you want us to disconnect and reconnect again?
No, oh, okay. You want to do that to suss it out? Okay, yeah, if you guys disconnect, I'll connect you again. We'll see if that does anything.
I don't think they're getting any. Are they getting any sound?
I can disconnect.
All right, disconnect and I'll invite you.
One, two, three, 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2.
1, 2, 1, 2.
1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Hello?
Yeah, it's better now. Can you hear us?
Still, yes, we can hear you clear.
I wonder if the hiss is from the mic trying to adjust to.
Okay, let's do it. Let's go forward.
We don't see the. We see a presentation.
Yes, let's do a presentation. I'm putting Group A's presentation up. Is Ben and Niv there?
We're here. I'll call Niv.
Let's see Ben and
Just
Niv.
give him a second and he'll be there.
Okay.
Just let me call him.
Yeah, Ben and Niv, the other group's there. So if you guys want to just get out in front, I can actually.
Yeah, Niv is coming and we are going to start. He's now entering the room. Excellent.
Okay. But,
One moment, please. Niv, تبع.
you can see the group here.
Can we open the Google Slide version rather than?
הם מתחילים. מגיע השקט של הסטורם הגדול, זה הקיף שלך. הקיף שלי, כמה יש לנו?
כן, הם הצוות הראשון. כן. העניין שעד עכשיו הוא באמת...
אוקיי, תראה, טבלו, כזה, תראה, זה חשוב.
Ben and Niv.
Yes?
Okay, Ben and Niv are there. The other group is
Sorry? Our judges are not yet in their seats. כן, כן, כן. בואו נשב. I'll tell you when the judges are ready.
No worries. Our judges are here ready.
All right.
הולך להתחיל,
כן, הם כולם מוכנים. אצלנו, אני מחכה ש...
בקרוב אצלך, אחי. בקרוב אצלך. לא מסוכנים?
כן.
What's showing it?
Are
we ready?
Last judge? Where's... Okay. Excellent. So I think we can start.
Okay. Welcome to the Cyber Challenge. Let's now start with our Group A.
Sorry, just when they're presenting research to their students, I think they want to press a link and do a live.
Okay. The YouTube video I'll show you.
Okay.
Okay, go. You're on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are Get It Right Consulting, and we're here today to present the top security vulnerabilities and what can be done to help ensure the San Jose's IT infrastructure is more robust. We identify the top 3 risks. Then our technical specialist, Ben and Liu, will provide more explanation about one of our risks regarding web software, followed by security experts who discuss one of the security attacks, and finally concluded by a business analyst, Avantika, to highlight our recommendations of controls and to wrap things up. So as per the requirements, we have identified 10 vulnerabilities, which you see in the handout in front of you. So, but we'll focus on the top 3. To conduct a risk assessment on these vulnerabilities, an analysis was done using ISO 27000 standard. And we first identified the vulnerabilities and threats, associated threats, shown as such. The first one is weak web software security. Second one, flawed Wi-Fi design. And the third one, out-of-date business continuity plan and no disaster recovery plan. We'll talk about this more in depth later, but to determine what the risk rate is, we actually use a risk matrix to assign a rating to level of impact and the level of risk is between high and moderate and low. So for example, for business continuity plan, it is more regularly. The likelihood of a disruption event happening, the impact will be these vulnerabilities identified a risk rating of extreme, the highest level from flawed Wi-Fi design, and the others have a high risk rating. The impact is serious due to design code's responsibilities to the government and is an extremely sensitive nature due to dealing with nuclear-related material. So therefore, through discussion with design code management, risk appetite has been decided at averse and risk tolerance is low. For understanding about the threats and recommendations for controls, Niv and Ben will pass on to them.
Niv, Ben?
Sorry, it's muted. תעביר למצגת. Excellent.
Okay. So now I'm going to talk about an SQL injection vulnerability. So during our investigation of the CheckPoint challenge, we found an SQL injection. SQL injection attack is the user, when the endpoint client is inserting an SQL code into text box, submitting, the code is being sent to the server executes the code, and then the user actually can manipulate the server by typing code on this side. We have actually two main options in order to avoid this kind of attack, but I'm going to talk first about how we actually found it on the investigation. First, in the first stage, we required to insert the username and password in order to log them to the system. The first thing that came to our mind is that we have to use an SQL injection in order to do that, but we couldn't see any other option. But in these kind of attacks, usually you're using SQL injection, from my experience and also for my partner experience as well. So the thing that we actually do is very basically, we type the username, and in the password field, we just enter an SQL code by special format that suits the code on the server side. We press on the submit button, and the server executes the code, and done. We log into the system. We have two options in order to prevent this kind of attacks. I'm going to talk about it very globally. I'm not going to talk and not going to take you into details. But the first thing that we actually have to do is changing our code on the server side in order to prevent from SQL injection attacks and an SQL injection code to being executed on the server side. We have to use a special algorithm, maybe on the client side, such as MD5, in order to hash the text string and verify it on the server side. This is one kind of this is one option. The second option is very basic option. It's very useful and very simple. We can just avoid quotes. Everybody knows that we are using quotes in order to write an SQL code. So if you can avoid quotes, you can avoid SQL injection attacks. So by applying those kinds of options, we can actually prevent an SQL injection attack, make our server much more secure, and make our environment secure to our clients. So that's what everybody wants to do. Thank you.
Okay, let's move to the next in-depth analysis. Can you please advance the slide?
Yep.
Thank you. Yes. So another vulnerability that we found in our investigation is direct access to sensitive web resources. The way what that actually means is that if I'm not even an authenticated user, I can just go enter the web page's URL, or just a URL parameter that will tell the server that I'm a certain user and just give me back the resource. I think that there were about 4 points in our investigation where we used this exact method. One example was to bypass a login screen and just enter the system without a user or password or even an SQL injection. So the way to prevent this sort of vulnerability, the way to close the security is first of all have a tested user access control system with authenticated user sessions, so that an anonymous request to get that web page is will be blocked, and the page will not be sent back. The second control that we have found useful is, say if a user has access to pages 1 through 4, but not to page 6, then that user, in our scenario, could just type in page 6 and access it. And in order to stop that, what you need to do is, what is recommended is to have each user have its own table of pages it can access. And once he requests the page, then the server authenticates the user and the page that he requested. And if on the server side the user is granted access, then he retrieves the resource from the database, which has a completely different address, a different way to access it. If you apply these methods, then the risk will be completely mitigated and the vulnerability will not be an issue. Thank you. Next slide, please.
So for the vulnerability of flawed Wi-Fi design, we know that design code is Wi-Fi, and the Wi-Fi password is actually password infiltrated. So the likelihood of design code being infiltrated is high, and as part of our work, we also check design web and put out feelers information from the organization. Found a forum that published a list of users, as we don't disclose how they got information, and it was actually through exploiting a flaw called crack.
Crack stands for communication attack, and it's vulnerability. That's discovered by MTA Yaffo and crack, and he put the username and password. The crack is the big this is a huge discovery because crack WPA2 wasn't cracked for 50 years, and if you could change the password to a mode, because this is because of the design of the WPA2. But even though this is a design code, WPA2 was secure. So how crack works is that it targets the four-way handshake. It relies on devices. Already used. This sleight of hand is achieved by manipulating the handshake. This vulnerability can be exploited on most operating systems. Android and Linux is the most vulnerable. I know because I'm using Arch Linux. So what happens is that all these devices will be decrypted, and your information can be transferred over to another device over the air that isn't already encrypted with HTTPS, TLS, or similar. The only limitation of this attack is that the attacker needs to be confirmed at real runtime. The problem is possible, never knew exactly, but maybe someone who works into your password will be able to crack into your Wi-Fi. This Wi-Fi is not going to crack into your password, but it will be able to sniff out all the packets. The way to prevent this attack is to make sure that you use a cable and you're connecting any devices to you. Be aware of any Android devices or maybe iPhone devices that can be Wi-Fi, because they can be vulnerable. There's a possible way to use JavaScript to inject code into your web server, so maybe that would use some sort of website and someone has already cracked into it. If you exposed to a ransomware, it's really bad.
As per the analysis showed by my colleagues, it is evident that design code literally contains explosive information which meets their appetite as risk averse. The top 3 risk ranked are flawed Wi-Fi design, weak web software security, and outdated business continuity plan. Thanks to our experts on explaining the threats and making it possible that the disruption from these risks are highly likely. On behalf of Get Advice, I would recommend the control of restricted risk, ranked risk. To avoid the threats like crack, as mentioned by my colleague, it is important to implement the latest security updates as well as perform them regularly, which will make the system less vulnerable to the contemporary threats. To secure the web software, it is vital to separate the user input from database security, as well as implement a control mechanism to ensure that the user is authorized to access the object. Lastly, it is essential to maintain an up-to-date disaster recovery plan, as well as business continuity plan. Moreover, to ensure that the robustness of these strategies, it must be reviewed and tested periodically. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, well done, Group A. Is there any questions from the panel?
Yes.
Yes.
Why did you recommend using MD5 for protecting passwords?
I recommend it because I think MD5 is one option. It's not indicate about all the options. MD5 is an example of hashing the code. It's like it's encoding the code so the server will not be able to execute the string as an SQL code. If we prevent from the SQL server side to execute the code, we prevent an attack. This is actually our main business.
Any other questions?
Can't you use safe SQL to protect the database from SQL injection?
I actually mentioned, maybe you couldn't hear me well. I think the basic option, the well-known option is just to escaping special characters such as quotes, because quotes, we're using quotes in order to write an SQL code. If we can avoid quotes, we can avoid SQL injection attack. So this is a very basic option. It's very economical.
Okay, but sometimes you need quotes in names. There are ways around it, but that's okay.
The way
do you have to actually upgrade routers as well as software?
At the moment, there is not really much you can really do because this was released last Monday. So it's vulnerability is really, really new, and there's not much of a patch that's been made towards it. A lot of experts advise that in WPA2, stay vigilant, use Ethernet cable to cut off any ways of using Wi-Fi. Right now, the experts are probably going to be able to come to a solution to patch this problem. So now we have to stay on WP. Don't go to WP. No, it's bad to go on WP.
But to your answer, we need to change the routers.
I don't think we can use it. So really good at and do much.
Any other questions, panel?
I'd like to ask you a question.
Yes.
Okay.
What provides the apparent problem? So if you would go to NoSQL, wouldn't have this problem? What's your thoughts on it?
Well, to generalize this attack, it's actually a code injection attack. So you could execute any type of code, even NoSQL or even the code that the server is running. Okay. Yes. Well, to be honest, it was one of the requests that we were informed in stage 2. We had to add a real-world attack to our list. It's not part of the challenge. It's not part of stage 1.
Okay.
Any other questions?
No more from this.
No real questions, but more of a statement. Just regarding on your impact rating table around the financial impacts. Probably would like to see more around potential costs of business to implement any changes.
Okay, nice. All right, let's convene and break for the next group. Thank you very much, Group A.
Thank you.
Okay, Group B will get ready now. Which group's here? Hey.
רק הם שולטים על זה, אנחנו לא שולטים על ה...
אני לא שולט על הפיזיק. זה invitation meeting.
רק אפשר להגיד אולי לחבר את המחשב הזה, הוא מחשב במצגת שהם צריכים לעשות. אפשר לבקש מבין שאנחנו, או שהוא ייתן לך שליטה עליי, ולהגיד לו, מסכים איתך ואתה צודק, היו כאן קצת הרבה פעמים שהסטודנטים יחד איתנו לעבוד במצגת. להעביר לך?
תביאו לי. אין מייל, אני עכשיו לא אנתק אותם, אני צריך דיסק און קי. יש לכם דיסק און קי? יש לך דיסק און קי?
אני גם... מי משתמש שם? לא, זה נכון, אני משתמש שם בדיסק און קי. יש לך. זה מוכן, זה לא כדי שאת רואה. אוקיי. אולי בטלפון. יש לי כבל לטלפון.
Group B is there.
Oh, Group B is there. Okay. So we'll go with Group B. And can you turn it up there?
עכשיו שם אבל אתה לא רואה את הפודיום, תזיז. אורי? את הפודיום תזיז קדימה, הם מדברים שם.
פודיום קדימה?
פודיום קדימה או אחורה? או את זה אחורה, או את הפודיום קדימה.
קדימה, קדימה.
Who have I got here? I've got group.
How many are there? Okay. That's fine.
Vince, can you make us the presenter?
Can
you make us the presenter? They want to present a presentation here.
Yep, I'm currently got you guys on. Yes. Oh, to do the presentation. Ah. So you'll have to do it through your feed.
Thank you.
Click the share option to share the screen.
Okay, just one. תגידו שנייה, שאנחנו מחברים את המצגת.
Vince?
Yes.
Hi. The team is here almost ready. Now we're connecting the laptop because they will display the presentation. So it will take a few seconds and we will contact them. Vince?
Yes.
one very important notice. Our team B didn't succeed to get connected with their partners and colleagues in the Australian colleagues. So they made the presentation and all the needed research by themselves. Unfortunately, as I understood, without any help or contribution. So
very innovative.
Pardon?
Very innovative. It's great. They took the bull by the horns and they did it.
Yeah. Are there any member of the B team there in RMIT right now?
No, there's only D, E, and F. Is there C?
Okay, so our B team is he almost ready. Well, they are ready. The laptop is almost ready because they are connecting now in order to be able to display the presentation. So I do hope that in a few seconds we will be ready to display a TV presentation.
Beautiful. Okay.
Thank you very much, Vince. Thank you.
שיש לנו אנימציות, צריך לתת קצת יותר קליקים ממה שאני רואה פה. אוקיי, אז זה אמיתי.
אוקיי, תעשה גנץ חדשות.
Vince, do you see?
Yes,
do you see our? Okay, great.
Hello, good morning. My name is Erez from the B team. First of all, I just would like to state that we try to. Do you hear me over there, Australia?
Perfectly clear.
Yes.
So we tried to team up with our Australian partners, but we did not succeed. So as a technical team, we just mentioned some vulnerabilities that we found in the stage 1 phase and some ways to how to prevent them. So we'll start with the first scenario, which we had to get access into the site. So there are a lot of tactics how to do it. We tried first to search some clues in the source code, also in JavaScript file, if we to find some information how to do it. In this phase, we found just a username, and then we used it to do an SQL injection attack, which is just a way of manipulating the endpoint server to get sensitive information from it. How we can prevent it is we can, first of all, we shouldn't include sensitive information in the source file. And even if we did, we can encrypt it by some encryption method, or sorry, with Or we can just leave the login information on the endpoint and not not in the source code. To prevent an SQL injection, we can use like an MD5 hashing, which is a way of manipulating the string, so it could not manipulate the server, or we can just avoid using special characters like commas and others to prevent this kind of injection. After we got into the site, we got just a normal user, and we wanted to like get admin permissions. So we used a tool called Edit This Cookie. Then we had an option to change our status from non-admin to admin, and we just changed it from 0 to 1. And we also had to find the log file, which was missing. So in the page where all the log files were, we saw that there are like 6 log files, if I remember correct, and they were named, and there was only one which was not there, which was the October log file. So we just tried to go directly, changing the URL path, and from we tried to access June log file, and we saw that the only change over there is by the name of the log file. So we just manipulate it and changed it to October, and we got directly access. So this is also a main vulnerability that we found, because you don't need even a username or password. You can just go directly into that path. So if we want to prevent this kind of vulnerability, we can just redirect every request to get to inner content into the main page, or even log out the user.
Okay, hi. My name is Dror. This is the second scenario, agency vs agency. At the first, it was very difficult for us to understand what we need to do. So we was like this. And what we did actually, first we searched in the source code to find any login information and to deal with the code. What we found a few JavaScript files that was in the source code. So we get into it and find any clues to get in the site. In addition, what more we found, it's special commands to get into the site, like MTSC, to get to the command, the console command. And we did a manipulation to get inside. What actually we were asked for is to find any usernames and passwords to continue with the stages, and to find the location. We have a picture that told us where are the server's location, or a global picture. So we just go in the source code again and look for it, look in the image, and try to understand what we're talking about. How to prevent all these steps? It's first of all, don't leave hints to yourself, like if you want to remember your password, so don't leave it on your source code to your friends or for you to remember the password to get in the site. We recommend also to hide any JavaScript or leave it in the server side. Don't give it to the end user to save it on his computer. And to keep any classified location of the servers on location of offices or computers or anything like that, and keep it in private. Just don't give access to anyone. Thank you.
our third scenario was to get the nuclear plan. The strategy was to search for a source code, to search something in the source code, but we didn't find anything, so we clicked the forgot my password. There was a QR barcode there that will let us get into the site. Then we use the URL path manipulation, like we just needed to change from page number 1 to 6, and then we get into the site again, or the coding base 16 to get login details about the site. There was another thing that toggle that we needed to change from disable to enable, and was very basic. How to prevent it? There is in the URL address, there was a variable called solve. You just needed to change it from false to true. So stuff like this you should be in the server, not in the client. Another thing is to lock or encrypt stuff like passwords, to change it like prime number, and the computer know how to solve it back, and then the client can access to the site. And like in the first and second scenario, source code should not contain any inner contact, and the advanced button that the client can change it for itself.
Okay, this is a few stages about what are the basic, advanced, and complex about how the hacker acts. The basic, he hacks against individual. What we mean individual, it's simple sites or not network connections or organization. What he did is manipulation to get the password or SQL injection to get into the site. He acts with small target, not to change a lot of things. Like the advanced, that what he do is to hack into multiple systems, and in order to modify files and sensitive data. The complex, it's actually to do a massive attack, to get into a system and to change files, to change a plane like the nuclear bomb. So he can put his hands on the sensitive data, and he have the power to change something in the real world, not just on the web. Here we have a few protections against cyber, how countries protect against cyber attacks. We have the United States that they have in the military defense, DoD it's called. They just put a unit special to the cyber attacks, like China, also the cyber blue team or the blue army. And we, of course, we have Israel, like IL-CERT, that they defend or protect against cyber attacks.
Hello. Hello. Hello.
We can't see you. Can you hear us?
Encrypted to prime numbers. So the computer know how to change it to a prime number that any hacker don't need to just put like SQL injection, and to get into the site, it will be very hard to the hacker to know what the computer needs to do to get into the site.
What algorithm are you talking about?
To change the password from how the computer save it, and he save it in his database as a prime number or something like this.
I have a question about the stages that I'm going to try to talk about. Each phase, what would be the difference protecting the system step? Share about the basic, the advanced, the complex. What's the difference, the advanced point? How do you protect them against each step?
As you see in the simple and the advanced and complex, what the difference are individuals, like simple sites, not something important. The advanced should encrypt his data and to make better protection against hackers. To don't change the files. You should don't give him easy access to the site, to the files that can change your information or your data. The complex is very important because if you have physical things in the real world that hackers can change, it can cause massive mess. Okay, massive mess.
It also depends on the data stored in each site. That was what he meant, I think. It's like if it's only non-sensitive information, it should only have normal user and password. And but if it's something like more sensitive, like healthcare or more sensitive information, then there should be some regulations you have to stand to. It's like you have some rules in each country how to protect these kinds of databases.
Hello?
Do you have any questions?
Well,
Do you have any questions?
really, I would just say that, well, as a penetration testing exercise, you guys seem to have nailed it. It's pretty good. Just some of the recommendations, like you were saying, just keep your Java script to the server side. It's a bit practical these days. It'll make the page run fully dead. So it's a matter of tightening up the JavaScript rather than just running it server side. I used to recommend to my students to run it on the server side, and it's pretty much impossible these days. But otherwise, pretty good as a pen testing exercise.
Anyone else? All right, thank you very much, BT.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No, I don't think we have any members of C here.
Anyone from C here? No. Okay, we go to D. No C here. We're going to D.
Unless there's C members in this row.
Okay, D set up for D.
Okay.
D team now. I'm just moving over to C team.
That's it. That's it. Okay. Okay. Yep. Okay, beautiful. Okay, beautiful. Thank you. Okay, Team D.
יהיה זה דיוויד, יא, NC. NC הזה מוביל עכשיו לא, עכשיו זה שלהם.
Show that. Hey guys, have you got have you sent to me via email? Now. Whatever you want to use. For our notes. It's the presentation computer.
I'm not reading it.
So you're emailing it to me or you're sharing it to me? Sharing is caring. And RMIT share faster. Yeah, good. Oh, so you emailed? That's okay. Have you got representatives? Okay. Oh, there's a few photos happening.
Yes, right. Absolutely.
Okay, we ready for Team D?
אולי לא, שהם ישבו במאחור, אולי לא? כן, במאחור.
Can you see the presentation for Team D?
Yeah, we can.
Right.
We're listening.
Go. Team D, you can see some of the members there. All right. D.
And we're finding after analysing design systems. So we'll just move on and I'll introduce you to who we are. So this is us. We've been Australia and Israel, and yeah, I guess we're a bit of a jack of all trades. We're a mixture of both technical and business people. And then just moving forward. Right, and just an overview of what we're going through today. We'll just go over, I guess, a little reminder of what design code is. We're going to go over the top 3 vulnerabilities and a few recommendations the vulnerability. Okay. So design code. So these are the things that we consider when analyzing the system. So design code has obligations to government and educational institutions, meaning they're dealing with very top secret. So we keep this in mind throughout the whole process. All right, so we've identified our top 10 vulnerabilities. Just up there, but today we'll just be focusing on just these ones highlighted for you. So the first one was injection. So signal injection can be found in the OWASP top 10. It's been there for about 15 years, and it's been the result of about 97% of the data breaches in 2012. So what is it? So it's just a definition we found on the internet. You'll find like quite a few. That we found in the login screen. So what we basically did was we found an email address on the site. Okay, okay, instead of getting the password, let's say people have to and we did the very basic one is that bypass. So that is the recommendation of how we can do it. So let's make sure that the data is sanitized so that it's not possible. Do not disclose the emails that's associated with a login or maybe whatever on the website. Not to have usernames instead, so as to why you need to share them. The passwords weren't stored in plain text, so they weren't hashed or anything. Passwords another way we could have gotten around that was if we had implemented a web application firewall.
Yeah. The second one we'd like to talk about is authenticated software. And for this website, whatever you operated, for example, you click a link right to the web page, etc. The web page will give you responses. This packet contains some sensitive information. Once this website uses IIS 4.0 and ASP.NET 4.0 information, we can assume this website or this system is Windows 2000 because since Windows 2003, it begins to use IIS 6.0. And for this, for both the system and the softwares, the sensitive information also is another issue. And for recommendations, we can give 3 recommendations. Is they should have software update schedule or plan. For example, emergency plan for emergency patches. And the second one is they can include the patches management in the contract. And the third one is they should train their employees, make sure they know how important they are for the update software.
In terms of server security, I'm just saying. But yeah, besides that, put a lock on it. You know, limited access, only the general the system admins. And yeah, that's really about it. That's all I have to say about server security. Oh, I'm sorry.
You got a bit more to say.
Yeah, I do. But yeah, about the physics. Worth, let me go to one second. No, it's okay. Can I just pose a question to the board? Fantastic. All right. So I'm an average looking fellow, yeah? Okay. If I was so I'm dressed all black, black slacks, black short sleeve shirt. Around Would you really question that?
No.
No? 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 Would you say if like we're both heading in the same direction, would you hold the door open for me?
I'm a nice person.
Yeah. That's good. That's good. So just a little bit of thing about physical security. Well, looking at earlier the other threat vectors, such as the digital threat vectors, we sometimes overlook the human aspects. Taken into account, we can't really forget about that. As we were quite a nice fellow, you'd probably overlook a few things if I was dressed a certain way. So there's just a few policies that things you might put into account. Is that one, our staff need to be aware of who is supposed to be where. And that's one thing. Also, another part of it is that we only have 3 CCTV cameras, and they're only covering the windows. So if a threat does come inside, we have no idea what's happening, and if you don't know what's happening inside, well, so just something to keep in mind is the human aspect. And
okay, so I'll talk about documentation side of things. So regulations and compliance. So we have risk analysis from ISO 2005, which is information security risk management. And where we have identified the corresponding assets, vulnerabilities, threats, and that risk to be whether they are high or low. And as you can see, in terms of system, the company has lack of user input sanitization, and this causes unauthorized access to the system. And it's pretty bad because once they have access to the system, they could basically do most of the things that are allowed to do. And then there's lack. There's no way to tell what employees are actually doing internet threats as well. So we'll consider this risk to the meeting because this threat is not as frequent as outside of threat. And then in terms of outdated unpatched software, this would cause malware to be persistent because they are known to exploit vulnerabilities in old systems like WannaCry, what WannaCry does to your XP. And then we have lack of features continuity. As mentioned in the case study, the owner was considering system backup to cloud, but it has not been implemented. So the company has government if those data are lost, it would be very right. And then we have lack of data backup plan. Risk appetite of the organization is low because of nature of the data and how they are dealing with sensitive government data and like universities. And they also deal with data that's related to user reference. And in general, risk appetite must be lower than residual risk after control has been implemented. This is an example of risk control, which we use from NXA of ISO 2005. So that we think should be in place here. So A511 information security policy document, and this should be approved by management, should be categorized. And then information security policy. So they have documents that has very sensitive information, and they should revise their policy in regards to that.
Anyway, so just concluding. Sorry, yeah. In mind that there is another threat, there is the human element, and that things up to date, and keep your staff aware. And thank you. Any questions?
Okay, any questions from the
about the what's the suggestion? What's the recommendation?
Besides, the only thing that can be done for you to introduce the staff to aware of certain things. It's not just the physical aspect, it's also most of the emails, because phishing. And there are sometimes skies. They actually see what it's actually so that and staff training.
Then right now they don't. They could be, I guess, in convention that there are other points of ID. So, some organizations require you to wear a lanyard that identifies you as an employee. So maybe it might mean don't hold open the door for someone. Don't hold open the door for someone unless you know that they are actually part of the organization. And as long as they're aware of like what the risks are and why it is important and what the consequences might be, they're more likely to take it seriously.
Did a very good analysis. No guys from business risk analysis to really improve your platform. When you said the level of risk, there would be, you said it was quantitative, but you're really adding these categories. Okay, so it's not really quantitative, it's qualitative.
Okay, sorry.
But I mean, still pretty good for computer, good effort. When we say human aspects, use the term social engineering.
Okay.
I
got a little bit tongue-tied.
We're board members, right? So we're a bit stupid. It's simple. Humour is a two-edged. Now I don't know. You might have a bit more to say about that. Humour in a business setting.
Yeah, you've got to be careful at a boardroom. One thing I did like though,
it's got to be a good joke.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, it's always hard to read a joke. One thing I did like though is you explained what the risk was in layman's terms. So you obviously people that encounter detail you get to show them because most board members they're not all technical. Some are very high level, and they need to sort of lay out in layman's terms what it is, what I should do, and what's it going to, the challenge going to be for them.
Any other questions?
What about external people coming into the business as a project? Yeah. But we can possibly do it on someone who works in the business inside possibly to the tech.
We have some sort of information that somebody's leaking something.
Okay. Given the nature of the organization, it really comes all the way down to recruitment, making sure that you are hiring people that you do trust and that pass all the necessary tests. A lot of organizations require like certain government police checks and I guess other tests that they would need to do. Firstly, you have to make sure that they do pass that, you're aware of their history, you know who they are, and at the end of the day, you have to give them that some level of trust. Otherwise, you can't really trust anybody with any of this information. You'll never really be able to run as business.
Access control, like access privilege, will help diminish the risk of someone accessing data beyond that they are allowed to.
So there's not really that much you can put into it from a surprise like that. So you can pay off the janitor to plug a USB in going by. Maybe about earning $20 an hour. $20 an hour, and you give them about $500. Happy.
Sounds like a voice experience.
But there's only so much preparation you can do. Some things comes down to that.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So, group E. Have you got people up the other end? Oh.
So Group E is all Australian?
Okay, there's no group members from Group E over in Tel Aviv? Oh, hold on. The microphone's on. Any Group E students?
No, there isn't.
No, they've spoken to one person, but they don't think he's going to be there. Okay, we'll get set up then for Group E. Okay, you got the presentation of your message. Okay, let's introduce Group E. Let's get one of the screens.
Hi everyone, we are Group E. My name is Jackie, this is Karen, Peter,
Move
and
across,
Ari.
Jackie, Karen.
So, is this good? So today we just want to run you through the CheckPoint challenge, the vulnerabilities that we've identified and some proposed solutions to those vulnerabilities. And also we want to talk about the business impacts that we believe are the most important. Then we want to go on and talk about some risk assessment, budgeting, some of our proposals, and finish with the last notes. So challenge one, just so we'll have it fresh in our minds, that was about a government website that had been hacked and something had been stolen and we had to find out what had happened exactly. So based on our penetration tests, we found that the three most critical vulnerabilities were SQL injection, session token manipulation, and directory reversal attacks. So based on those attacks, what we propose are a list of solutions for each vulnerability, and they are that for SQL we use prepared statements to move away from giving control to the SQL line of code, and we put it into yeah, and we use PHP backend. And then we have stored procedures and a SQL music. So these are things that we would tell to the security people involved in increasing security practices in government. So we also use and recommend SSL and HTTPS where possible in all cases, and use session timeouts. And finally, for the directory traversal attacks, we recommend using file access permissions and also apply security patches up to date. So the potential risks and business impact of having these vulnerabilities exploited are that obviously it gives unauthorized access to adversaries to critical information on the government website. Obviously, you know, this could lead to identity theft if an adversary found data on people, Australian citizens. And also, this could lead to leakage if they sell it on the dark web, for example, and that's going to cost the government a loss of reputation. Obviously, you lose trust in governments and organizations that are hacked. So that's a big problem as well. And obviously, it just causes a lot of disruption in business every day. You know, you're focusing on trying to fix things while trying to do your everyday job. So that's a big problem as well.
So the second challenge was the hacking the other agency one. And for this, there was a shell in the web browser that a user would log into, gain access, root access, or server access to a competitor's shells. And so this one was simulated in the browser, which made it slightly simpler than trying to actually gain access through SSH or something like that. And the vulnerabilities we identified was the view source exploit, where you right-click on the page and you view source. Usually a lot of things you can find in there. There's a lot of strings in there. The other one is that the code was unobfuscated and really easy to read. Like there were comments. And it was really nice to find. It was great. And the other, obviously, big point was that it used JavaScript for shell. JavaScript was not very secure at times, especially with client-side authentication. And they had easily guessed the passwords. I actually did the first stage by brute forcing my way through. I didn't check at the time. I was like, this is matrix themed, right? And I was like, oh yeah, username Neo, got through. What would the password be? I was like, matrix, done. I'm like, all right, got the first part, that's cool. So all you need is basic web coding skills, how to read HTML, PHP, JavaScript, things like that. And so the exploitation method was to view the source code of the page and then view the source code of the JavaScript file at the same time. And you could usually find hidden commands or strings that you needed to enter in there. So the solutions for this was that you should hide your program logic, you know, using encapsulation and obfuscation. And sanitize user input as well. It was, you know, you get through a bit and obviously authenticating the server to. The business impact is that there's unauthorized access to the function, especially if you get into someone else's. You can access their sensitive information, you can steal it, you can wipe it, all sorts of things. So you can take down companies pretty quickly if they don't have proper backups in place, wipe all their files are done for. And also for brand damage, like Equifax hacks, so, you know, if you had to give someone shell access, you probably do it SSH or something secure, control user and use jump hosts as well. A large telco in Australia I know uses about 4 jump hosts to get into their internal server. Kind of adding a layer of abstraction that people just can't pop new shells and take over everything.
So the final challenge was the nuclear plan. We are still the blueprint of the opposing nuclear, the other website where to hack it and gain the plans. vulnerabilities that we identified were that the passwords were in plain sight. We just, as Peter was mentioning, used source code and could pretty easily find the password. So that's vulnerability number one. There were also unencrypted files and logs and other sensitive data, which in an ideal world would not be accessible to the public. And finally, the website was also vulnerable to JavaScript injection. So just knowledge of simple client-side languages will give you the power to hack this website. So our proposed solutions to this is to have secure all sensitive information. It really seems like common sense, but it's something that we need to train our employees to know. So any usernames, email addresses, passwords, don't have them accessible to the public. Obviously, encrypt all sensitive data and log files, and remove any critical program logic to the backend where it's not so easy to access. Again, business impacts are that a hacker can gain unauthorized access. They can get access to files that they shouldn't have. And this one in particular is dangerous because lives are at risk. If we give hackers the power to press the button on a nuclear code, that's pretty dangerous. Again, damage to business reputation, invasion of privacy through information leakage, and revenue loss for the company.
From the terms we identified principle list, so these are the 10 top threats and vulnerabilities we have identified. Beside the technical, the risk level is based on the magnitude with the difficulty of the technical skill required to prevent the threat and the damage that the level of damage that it can cause to the company. And besides the technical, we also have some soft side, which is policy setting and staff training and continuous plan. So we will identify that the most serious issues in this case about the policy setting, because there's so many threats in how to manipulate the system and easily to get into steal data and to change the command that can cause great damage to the company in terms of the reputation, or maybe even massive, because we like to the brand. So we the top one we choose the policy settings. From we can if we can hide the expert to develop the policy settings, including the security like controllers or the side direct within. So with the very close supervision of the high management level, in terms of the implementation and everything, we can reduce the significant amounts of the likelihood in the damage that and the second one is sorry. So for the second one is about the password in source code. We consider as the second top threat. Yeah.
Oh, so you just.
Yes. So, already there's some. We haven't changed the title of the.
It's very important to make sure that any code that you're actually releasing, whether it be internal code to another branch, another facility inside your organization, or code that you're actually uploading to a public repo, as Google does, Facebook does, a lot of companies do right now these days. It's very important to assure yourself through company policy that you do not upload any kind of sensitive data, sensitive information, passwords, personal credentials up there. it's actually very easy to go onto GitHub and just do a broad search for certain variables that are very common in PHP, JavaScript, and many other languages, and actually find people's stored credentials. So in the challenge, we actually found a couple of credentials through plain text that were publicly available that can be prevented by having company policy when it comes to your developers who are actually maintaining the code and creating the code to not upload this and spread this where it should not go.
So our controls developed based on the ISO 27001 and the so for the control. So we have identified based on the guideline, we have developed our controls for the, you can see comprehensive versions of this which is and we we also want to guarantee three core elements of these activities: confidentiality, integrity, and availability. So it's not only about the confidentiality, but it should be available for users. But the user to become more difficult to use the service of the websites and the system compared if it is implemented by the security plan. So because it's related to the nuclear plan, so we believe that companies should be very careful and should implement the most possible security plan. And the budget that we estimate is about 500,000 because it includes the high levels of the improvement, including the policy development and the developing the critical of the current employees in IT, the high control and high technical barrier against the potential threat.
So when we're talking about best practice, this is something that you can implement before you actually start a major project or going into a major project if this has not been actually implemented itself. Is you can keep a simple acronym in mind, just like Apple or something like that. And you can do things like analyze your public-facing sites from an external perspective. A lot of time code is created with the sole purpose for internal use or something that the internal team has developed and built. Come into it from an external perspective, the perspective of someone who's actually trying to gain unauthorized access to the service. Test your endpoints. You have to make sure that permissions are locked down and things cannot be exploited. That's something you have to do, and you have to train yourself to abstract yourself in a different way. Another thing you can do quite feasibly is lock down your permissions, kind of leading on from the previous statement. The access that you grant to services, so a lot of people use a user in a PHP situation, for example, to specifically gain access to certain tables. You have to make sure that those are locked down. For example, you shouldn't have update permissions if you're simply doing some kind of a GET request. You're just trying to populate a little bit of data on a table so you can present it to users. Users do not have update access and delete table access and any kind of unauthorized access that they should have and do not need. Leading on from the previous one, talking about abstracting access. The availability of certain aspects of your services, whether it be websites or SSH, as was previously mentioned by Peter, and permission is granted on a whitelist basis, not a blacklist. So you start with almost no permissions and only grant them as necessary for certain employees and services as needed. That way, if there ever is a leak and someone has actually gotten information credentials from another party, you can make that risk by making sure that they cannot access as many services as otherwise would be possible and have greater access. Lastly, it's very important to listen to the guidance given on authoritative websites, ones that you can trust, such as government websites for your local municipality or country, or national organizations such as OWASP or the Mozilla Foundation. Look at these regularly and update your sites and services with accordingly. So you need next generation defense. I think you guys need CheckPoint services. CheckPoint is next generation services you can rely on. They do packet inspection level. They can actually predict viruses and malware as it comes through the wire. They're always ahead of the game. And most recently, in the WannaCry virus, 6 months before it actually impacted much of the biggest organizations, CheckPoint had already a signature associated with that, preventing their users from and internal networks from being abused by this cryptoware. And the conclusion is, if it has public access, you really need to lock it down. It's your imperative as an organization, a developer, or a manager to make sure that you mitigate all risk possible. Thank you.
Any questions from the panel?
Yes.
We do have some breakdown. So each part, yeah, how many components you need, technical device or whatever, or labor, research or development?
It probably cost about $15,000 for us to do that, just ourselves. We'd have to go into the company, we'd have to analyze what's going on, what kind of vulnerabilities are available, how much time, man-hours would be required for refactoring code, getting certain devices, maybe CheckPoint would be good. And then you can actually go from there. So at the moment, it's just a rough estimate on how many man-hours and devices you would actually need to replace and increment.
Tel Aviv, did you have a question?
Yeah, thank you. So I won't go into the pricing that you stated, 500K. I don't think you have a basis to give any numbers for CapEx or OpEx. But I do have a question regarding password storage. How should the passwords be stored?
Well, usually if you're doing something with databases, those best practice to salt and hash them. Like indefinitely use nonces, everything. You know, plain text, that's out of the question completely. And use secure hashes as well. None of this MD5 stuff or MD5 stuff. Yeah, some people still use it. So, and also,
do you have a hash you would recommend us?
You have a hash to recommend?
Yeah, SHA. SHA1 has already proved itself being great, but it's getting on the way to becoming quite feasible to actually crack. You have to move on from SHA1 to something cryptographically complex, such as SHA2.
Any other questions?
I'd just like to make a comment. They're a great strength.
אבל זה כמעט כולם טעו בזה. כולם טועים בזה.
You actually get together now. They're really bounce together really well. You know, collaboration. I've given you one on the collaboration, but the others.
Any other questions from the panel? Okay, thank you. Okay, so we've got, that was group E. So we've got our group F, which we're going to set up now. What are you laughing for?
Person F. Person F.
Person F. Have you got, is there anyone from Tel Aviv? Hey guys, we've got one group member from group F. One. And where is he? Move across. Let's have a look at him. Okay, so what was the name? Chris. So this is Chris, everybody, and Chris is on his own, and he's going to do this mano a mano a stand-up comedian, it will be a stand-up.
Can I ask you to take one step forward, please, so it's easier to hear you and see you? Thank you.
Okay, you ready? All right, go.
All right. So I'm more of a, I work in cybersecurity already, so I'll like talk about the technical side more rather than the business side. Well, how I'll break it down is I'll show you, like I'll talk to you about how the technical will affect the business. It's all really like common sense. So I'll break it down. First one, I'm going off. All right. Yeah. So firstly, if I don't know who developed this site, but you really need to sit down and because the fundamentals are really lacking in how developers understand, and they're being taught it's better nowadays. How client side and server side, how important they are, and how different they are, and each side serves a particular purpose. Because your JavaScript side, I can break down half this competition was because of JavaScript. We put plain text information, intelligence in the JavaScript. If I can press F12 and see everything there is to know about your security, what's the point? If a kid could do that, so as a real security professional, press F12 and yeah, so plain text variables in the JavaScript. It's just that JavaScript at the moment should be used for where you can pass on intensive processes of the client, such as graphical stuff and stuff that like eye candy all the functions. You don't want any sort of security. You don't want any session management. I would say in JavaScript, because if I can see admin equals this, really, I can just change that in the session and then have it. So that this whole competition borderline between very unreal, real world and very unrealistic, because firstly SQL injection is the main part of it. The main part of SQL injection, number one on the top 10 has been for years, 2012 they want their expert really. If I can SQL, why even I'm professional. SQL injection, if I find that, you're done. Your whole company is done. Not gonna bother. Why would I use that to bypass the authentication? I can use it to completely destroy your backend database, gain access, and if it's using Microsoft SQL, then as a function and they can execute shell, which I'm going to execute once an administrator, and I'm just going to start popping in registry keys to basically mess with the server and give me access without anyone knowing. So why would I go for trying to take a web panel when I could take the whole web server? And that's just not including the fact that in the real world, they probably use some sort of service like content provider, which is Cloudflare. So that really is another variable on top of that. Plus SQL injection. So nowadays people use frameworks and stuff so they can avoid that. So sanitization. If you bring in developers, they should be all over sanitization. No, that should not be an issue. You can't be. It's just 101. You're going to be taking data from the user. Verification. Sanitize everything. You don't trust the user at all. Security 101, regardless, cybersecurity. Don't trust someone you don't know. So, yeah, SQL injection. That should be an issue. Use the framework, sanitize everything. I have an SQL injection vector. Done. I have the entire organization, and it really depends on who am I. Am I a hacktivist? Am I an anarchist? Or am I more dangerously? Am I industrial espionage, state-sponsored intelligence gatherer? Then that's just an open door. And I've seen firsthand I won't go into exact details, but financial institutions, like that was it. An SQL injection going straight in, and don't worry about anything else on the website. And nowadays, like the way that the SQL injection attack worked, where it was just 1 equals blah, like that's that's 101. In the real world, the SQL injection still happens, but it'll be a lot more longer and fancier than that. And it'll be a lot more like obscure, like if you're using some sort of, high-tech zero-day sort of type of attack. So it's rare to see, 1 equals 1 and then bypass it. It doesn't happen anymore. And I can't say that, but that shouldn't really be an issue. If you have developers on there that know what they're doing, and you have security at CISO that does the proper checks, goes through OWASP top 10, that looks at how is our country vulnerable and what impacts of that. So you should like really be all over that without saying. And top 3 as well. Number 3, XSS. The scoreboard is vulnerable to XSS. The scoreboard is also vulnerable to being DDoS, spam with thousands of teams. So, like outside of the actual context of the competition, it's also been a vulnerability that found. You can imagine the corporation websites having notification XSS, and everyone can see them when they access. It's bad. So that's just like the main technical sides. Going on after the XSS side, session manipulation. That's a pretty old attack as well. Modifying cookies and stuff that's scary stuff. Like if you get the administrator cookie, like who knows what kind of defenses, but you really got to have server side verification. You can't rely on client side. As I said, don't trust the client because they will break it any way they can. Got to have back-end sanitizing it and authentication, like authorization. All right. So that's my main points on the technical aspect of like the website at least. I guess I should talk about physical security, server rooms, all goes without saying, locks, or the full layers. Like the security is generally broken up into layers. The outer layer would be stuff like outside security guard patrols and like then card swiping and server room locks and AAA authorization levels of access. If you go on all day, you can go on all day. I've seen written and seen documentation that's like inches thick on security, and it's really security 101. If someone has, if an unknown person has physical access to a device, there's thousands of ways to destroy it, gain access, compromise it. That shouldn't be an issue. That comes down to a broader security. But I'm focusing on today. I'm focusing on the website aspect. And another thing is directory traversal. It's just don't put sensitive information into your live web directory because as don't keep all the versions of websites in there. Don't put in. You only dish out to the client, to the user, what is absolutely necessary to navigate the site and to complete the tasks required to be completed by. You just got to be very careful with information you give to. That's why I'm ranting about it now, but client side, like JavaScript, you've got to be careful about what you put. As I said, half these challenges were we found variables that were in plain text, like where's the location? Press F12. Oh, the location is this. Oh, where's something else? Well, what server location is this? If I can find it in JavaScript, it's a two-second deal. That's the majority of the technical stuff off the top of my head. Yeah. Also, like using APIs is good as well. I'd rather be vulnerable to number 10 on like an unsecure API than number 1 or number 3. If you can implement APIs, frameworks, all that are very very common nowadays. Like if you're like a small business, you're not going to be bringing in developers. It's just not financially feasible. You can use something like WordPress or a drag and drop option that is already secured. And those kind of systems are like patched regularly. Also, patch management goes into all other IT cycles of day-to-day work. Everything's going to be patched. No excuse. So, yeah, that's the majority of what I wanted to talk about. So, does anyone have any questions?
Well done on doing it on your own. Have we got any questions for Chris?
Yes, please.
Hold on, there's a. Yep, Tel Aviv.
Yes, I have one
Any question.
Yeah. You mentioned that you are working at the cybersecurity field already, so you probably know from the field that sometimes you cannot fix all issues with the code itself by SQL or code. So you mentioned the SQL injection and the cross-site scripting. Which system you think will be good enough to put in front of the servers in order to protect the cross-site scripting and the SQL injection?
Sorry.
So what would you put in front of a server to protect against cross-site scripting and SQL injection?
I want to put in front. Well, web access firewall, which can help with sanitizing, some of the import. It'll prevent the obvious sort of stuff, the obvious attacks. But then again, like web access, they're not foolproof either. They can they're more often than not a signature based. So you find some way to obfuscate the attack, and that more often than not that'll be very useless. So I would go with a web application firewall. That's like it will cover the basis. It's never going to be 100%, but if you don't want to be vulnerable to the obvious attacks. And on the database side, you want to break down. You don't want the user that Apache uses or whatever system's using to access the database to be like a high level user.
Okay.
Thank you. Is there any other questions?
Yeah, one more question. Since you said you were working in the security field, can you explain in brief what is PBKDF2?
PBKF2. I don't know. I haven't looked into it at the moment. I work on security information event management sort of side, so I don't I don't know what's use Alien Bolt or Splunk or those type of systems. So threat detection. What's that?
What type of system is Splunk?
A big data type application. Well, without going into too much detail, a security information event management uses a big data aspect. It collects logs from endpoint devices, servers, and all that, and collates the logs, and then uses rules and threat intelligence to identify incoming attacks, threats that are more complicated, threats that are people are trying to use funky sort of attacks, or they're trying to fuzz it. Obviously, fuzzing is pretty detectable nowadays, but seeing that kind of behavior can be picked up, and also identifying GIPs and identifying country of origin of attacks and all that. That's what I do. So I'm not too much. I don't do much pen testing, pretty much none. But so this is a bit of a throwback for me. But yeah, that's what I do. I do more the big data and threat intelligence, threat sort of analysis side on in general infrastructure.
All right, thank you. Is there any other questions from the panel?
You really missed having other people to help with the presentation. You know,
you did well though.
You did well. You did well. You know, obviously you did well in the challenge. It was mostly your work, was it?
Being in Ramadan was like me and him, our team came the best at RMIT.
Yeah.
But he did like a lot of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he definitely picked up on some like funny things that like, I just didn't see. But he didn't want to go in. But yeah, like it's that's you know, that wasn't a hard challenge. Like that was nothing. Like they're blatantly obvious, like cookie cutter vulnerabilities. Like not realistic at all.
Just watch out for hubris.
Hubris.
Yeah, look it up.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Chris, for coming along. Okay. Hello, hello, people. These are the panel members over here. So, just so you can introduce, that's Nathan from CheckPoint. This is Fingling from Computer Science. And that's Ian Story from the Business Information Systems. We can see you guys. There you are. And the anonymous voice, that's me, you know, the guy that hasn't shaved and looks really scruffy. I wanted to look like a hacker today. Is that Ruti over there? Hi, Ruti.
Yes.
I spotted you. So as we were going through the challenge, I was making notes on the students so that we can reflect and look at this different aspect to the challenge that we've decided to try and you know, add to the standard hacker challenge. Can think of something that we can help improve and move forward for this pilot that we've done. Because I think there's some really good aspects to it. Aspects we can improve, like this crazy technology. I think that the Hangouts worked very well. I don't know how clear it was there. How was it over there?
It was a bit choppy, so we had trouble hearing you.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
But it was better than the other time, than the first time.
I can hear a little bit of like noise for some reason. I don't know where it's coming from.
So it may also be from the conferencing tools on both sides. So I don't know if it's Hangouts or it's the Polycom-like equipment. In our case, it's Logitech.
Okay. Oh, yeah. We're using the lecture theatre speakers, but the speakers were causing the echo that we were getting at the start. So we turned them off, and we're just using speakers from the computer. But you're coming across very, very clear for us. And I went to the live feed on YouTube. It was fairly clear. I was surprised. So it'll be stored on YouTube, so you can actually go and have a bit of a listen later. When we did a test with that 2 days ago, I played some music on the YouTube video when we were testing with the IT guys. Within not even 15 seconds of stopping the broadcast, there was a copyright disclaimer, and they cancelled the video because they detected 10 seconds of music from a very well-known artist. I was very surprised. So
Dropbox does it also.
Google amazes me. Google. Okay, so if you guys have created some notes, because we've sort of got some notes that we've created, it may be a good idea to sort of scan them and send them to me, and I can then send it to the group so they can get some feedback. Because that way.
Maybe
hey,
we can. You can hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay. Maybe we can do some 10 minutes break in order to summarize the points, and then we can decide which group is the first one, the second one, etc.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
All right, let's have a bit of a break.
So we can say the students to go out for 10 minutes, and we'll be here to summarize.
Yeah, so just the judging team on both countries.
Yep, no worries. All right, students, you head out. Grab some pizza on the way out, because I'm not going to eat that leftover pizza.
I've got two teams with 100, one with 96, and B and F were 70. So
Guys, come on. I'll stop the broadcast.